They said no one could have survived the fire. Yet when the flames died down, a small boy walked out, untouched, unafraid, and somehow calm. He said someone had held his hand through the blaze, but no one else was there. The town of Ridgeview sat nestled between pine-covered hills, where homes were built close and families closer. On one cloudless afternoon, the air hung heavy and hot, too hot for comfort. A whisper of wind turned to a dry gust, and within minutes smoke curled above the horizon. No one could say how it began. Maybe a spark from an old transformer or the careless flick of a cigarette. But the wind carried it fast. In less than an hour, the fire was racing down the ridge toward the edge of town. Inside a small wooden house lived Eli, a quiet 8-year-old boy with a love for stories about angels. His mother had gone to fetch water from the well when she saw the black smoke rising. Panic seized her heart. By the time she turned back, the fire had already crossed the creek. She ran, screaming his name. Neighbors shouted for her to stop. Flames were already at the porch. The house roared like a living thing. No one could get close enough to enter. They pulled her back as she screamed, "My boy is inside!" No one could imagine anyone surviving that inferno. But when the fire finally subsided hours later, what they found left them silent and trembling. There, standing in the ash and smoke, barefoot and unharmed, was Eli. His hair was singed at the tips, but his skin was untouched. His eyes, calm. When they asked him how he got out, he simply said, "A tall man in white held my hand and told me not to be afraid." At first, everyone thought he was confused, too young to understand what had happened. But Eli's description never changed. "He was glowing," the boy said, "and his voice sounded like thunder and whisper at the same time." The rescue team searched for footprints or signs of anyone else who could have entered the house, but there were none. The fire chief, a hardened man with 20 years on the job, said quietly, "I've seen miracles in my time, but not like this." Word spread quickly. Reporters came. Skeptics debated. But Eli never flinched. He repeated his story exactly the same way every time. His mother, eyes wet with gratitude, said something that stayed with everyone who heard it. "When I couldn't reach him, someone else did." Weeks later, firefighters admitted the truth. The heat had reached over 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt metal. There was no scientific reason anyone, especially a child, could have walked out of that house alive. Months later, when the remains of the house were cleared, something strange was found. In the middle of the scorched floorboards, exactly where Eli had said the man first appeared, was a pattern in the ash. It wasn't random. It looked like the faint outline of a handprint pressed into the blackened wood. The local pastor visited the site, standing silently for a long time before saying, "Some fires reveal more than they destroy." From that day, people began visiting the spot quietly, leaving small stones of thanks or folded notes of prayer. Eli grew quieter, wiser. He told his mother once, "I don't think he saved me just for me. I think he wanted everyone to know that he still walks among us." Years later, Eli, now grown, returned to the same spot. The town had rebuilt, but a small lantern still hung where his house once stood. It was lit every year on the fire's anniversary, not as a reminder of tragedy, but of mercy. Standing beneath it, Eli whispered, "You didn't leave me in the fire then. You won't leave me now." And as the wind brushed past, the flame in the lantern flickered, not out, but brighter. There are moments when the laws of nature fall silent, and something greater speaks instead. If this story moved you, share it so others may find light in dark times. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to Lanes and Lanterns, where real stories remind us that miracles still walk quietly among us.